All right, we are going to talk about a type of transformation called a translation. And I'm not going to use the word translation very much. I'm going to use the word shifting. And this is going to be for functions. Okay? And functions are graphs that pass the vertical line test. A function might look like this. As long as anywhere where I put a vertical line, I only touch one part of the graph at a time, it is a function. So this is an example of a function. An example of not a function would be something like this is not a function. You can see that right here and right here I touch the same vertical line twice, so this makes it not a function. Okay? So that's just a little bit of background on functions. And what I really want to talk about is how we do shifting with functions. Okay? And I'm going to talk about this in very generic terms. So let's say we have a base function that, say, does this. That's a function. And let's just call it, well, let me go back a little bit. Let me be a little more careful here. Let's say this function looks like that, so that it goes through the origin. The origin is the center of the graph. And let me call this function f of x. Okay? And I don't know what the equation for it is. We're not going to worry about what the equation is. We are going to worry a whole lot more about what happens if I move it. How does that affect the f of x? Okay? So let's say that instead of f of x, I have f of x minus 2. Okay? Now, that seems to not mean much because I don't have an actual equation. But I promise you, it actually does mean something. Okay? This minus 2 right here represents a shift in the x direction. It's in the x direction because it's grouped with x of positive 2. When things are grouped with x, when things move in the x direction, they move opposite of what you expect them to. Okay? So what that's going to mean is we're going to take some part of the original function, that function right there, in fact, the whole function actually, but we're going to focus on one part. Let's say the part at the origin right there. And we are going to move it positive 2 in the x direction. Remember, this is the x, this is the y. So this entire graph over here is going to look exactly the same. It's just going to have moved positive 2 in the x direction. So if I draw it sort of from the same center, it should look the same. It just looks like it's moved positive 2 in the x direction. And I'm just sketching here. I'm just trying to give you an idea. If I were to draw that off a little bit better, if I were to instead add something onto it or subtract something away from it, let's say I do -4, and so this is now not grouped with X. You can see the difference, hopefully, between grouped with X and not grouped with X. This represents a shift in the Y direction. When you have this idea, you get shifting in the Y direction when you're not grouped with X like that. And then it happens the way that you would expect it to happen. So this is a shift in the Y direction of -4 because we see the -4 there. If you need to see it even more specifically, I can change that minus to a plus negative, and then you see the -4 even clearer. But I'm just going to leave it at -4 for right now. So what would that do? That would take the original graph again, and it would shift it in the Y direction by a factor of -4, so that middle part and the entire graph with it would move 1, 2, 3, there's a -4 there, and so I would go from the center of that, and it would have the same shape, it just moved down now. Think of this as grabbing something on your computer screen with your mouse, picking it up and putting it down. That's how you can think of this, okay? And then, of course, you could have one where you do both. We could do f of x plus 3 plus 2, and then I have shifting in both directions, and so it would be a shift, and we would have two of them. We would have in the x direction. The x direction happens opposite of what you expect, so it would be a shift in the x direction of -3, and we would have one in the y direction, remember not grouped with x, and happens exactly the way you expect it to, so a shift in the y direction of +2, and so everything would move in both. I'll sort of squeeze one in here. We would go -3 in the x direction and +2 in the y direction, and that gives us a new center, and it would still kind of look like that. Again, I'm just sketching these out and not making these super accurate. I just want to give you the base idea. So that is how you do shifting. Now, the key to doing shifting is knowing what the original, or what we usually call the parent, looks like, and then basing the shifting off of the parent. That's the key to this idea of shifting. So this is the end of this video. Thank you so much.